Julius Rosenwald, a native of Springfield, Illinois, born around 1862. He became the president of Sears, Roebuck and Company around 1909. He was very supportive of several causes, but the education of African Americans in the South was at the top of his list. He met Booker T. Washington of the Tuskegee Institute and the author of Up from Slavery, who helped sparked a big interest in charitable works for African Americans in the South. He established the Julius Rosenwald Fund, a matching grant fund for African American schools in the South to help educate the African American community. North Carolina had constructed around 813 Rosenwald buildings, more than any other state in the South. The importance of education in North Carolina was a top priority of African Americans in this state. Harnett County had at least 22 Rosenwald buildings with over 71 classrooms and the capacity to educate 3,195 African American students at a total cost of over $150,000. Contributions of the African American community of $21,649, public contributions of over $106,000, and the contributions of the Rosenwald Fund of $18,800 in the year of 1929 made it possible. These schools were located in various communities throughout this county. Community educators and teachers from various places throughout the region taught our ancestors how to read and write. As we look at the Rosenwald schools located in Harnett County, North Carolina, our hope is to educate our community on the history of our ancestors and the struggle of being educated in the South, but particularly Harnett County, North Carolina.
We want to take this time to honor two African American educators that made a significant impact in the Harnett County community. We honor these gentlemen for their commitment to ensure that African American students received a top-notch education. They have served on several levels throughout their education career, from teacher, administrator, principal and community advocate for education. Although both of these gentlemen have passed on, we honor their legacy and for the impact they made to the betterment of African American education in Harnett County, North Carolina. Mr. Leonard Arnold and Mr. W. M. Porter will forever be in our hearts.
Mr. Leonard Arnold was born July 26, 1944 in Irwin, North Carolina. He attended Gentry School and was a 1962 graduate of Harnett High School. A graduate of Fayetteville State University with a degree in mathematics, he earned his master's degree in school administration at North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro and proceeded to earn his Education Specialist Certificate and Superintendent's license at East Carolina University. He was married to Mrs. Betty Arnold and had one son. Mr. Leonard Arnold spent 35 years as an educator in Harnett County schools. He served at Johnsonville, Benhaven, Dunn High and Harnett Middle School. He was the first principal of Triton High School, a school that brought together students from the towns of Coates, Dunn and Irwin. Mr. Arnold served as one of the first African American instructors at Mars Hill College during the 1970–1971 school year. Later, his appointment as Triton High School principal made him the first African American high school principal in Harnett County since desegregation. He was later named Assistant Superintendent of Harnett County Schools, which made him the first African American to ever serve in this capacity. Over the years, Mr. Arnold was the recipient of many awards for his years of tireless and dedicated service to students of Harnett County and for his leadership in the field of education. Most notable among those were receiving the Order of the Long Leaf Pine, the highest civilian honor bestowed by the state of North Carolina. Harnett County Teacher of the Year in 1974 and Harnett County's Wachovia Principal of the Year in 1992. Mr. Arnold was a member of the Board of Directors for First Federal Bank of Dunn. A member of Mount Pisgah Harnett Original Free Will Baptist Church in Irwin, he served on the Audit and Budget Committee and Resolution Committee.
Mr. Waddell Porter was born in Dermott, Arkansas. He went to school at Chico County High School. He received a Bachelor of Science degree in biology at Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. He served 4 years of military life in England, Wales, France and Philippines. Received the MS Ed in Public School Education Administration at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, NCCU at Durham and UNC Chapel Hill. He attended Management Seminar for Subsidized Housing HSDHUD, Greensboro, Broker's Course, Wake Tech CC. He experienced 2 years as a math and science teacher in Wadesboro City Schools, 2 years as a principal of the Four Teachers School, an elementary school in Coates, NC, served 1 year as the principal of McLean Chapel School in Bunlevel, NC, 10 years as the first principal of Gentry Junior High, 9 years as principal of Shawtown High School in Lillington, NC, the third largest school population covering the largest school bus transportation area in the Harnett County school system. He also served 2 years as director of Displaced Educators Project based in Raleigh, North Carolina. Followed by 2 years with the St. John Terrace, Inc. housing project, then owned by St. John Church in Dunn, NC. He was also elected as a member of Irwin Town Board, and a 1987 LN Corporator and Contact Director of Harnett County Uplift Operation Inc. He married Mrs. Ethel Gilmore. He attended St. John Missionary Baptist Church in Dunn, NC. He also attended Lillington First Baptist Church in Lillington, NC. He held memberships in NCTA, NCAE, HCNAE, NEA, NAASO, NAESP, NSPR, NBC, BSA, PTA, Professional Improvement CLUB, membership with NAACP, Harnett County, Black Caucus, chairperson of the 3rd District Black Caucus, the State Black Leadership Caucus, Lee County Mental Health and Habitat for Humanity of Harnett County, Henley Roberts Day Care Steering Committee and a member of Food Bank Pantry, Inc. He was currently appointed as the Town of Irwin, Mayor Pro Tem. He received many awards for his services as educational, religious, political, and civic community services, his selfless dedication as a leader in civil rights and a living legend in Harnett County. He had worked to fight injustice for blacks and white. He headed the fight to get blacks elected to positions in Harnett County. He also helped getting the county broken into districts and as a result helped got Mrs. Beatrice Hill as the first black woman to be elected to the Board of Commissioner and since that time has helped many others including himself to be elected in other offices in Harnett County.
The Shawtown School had its beginning in a 2-room school built around 1915. The school was located about 3/10 of a mile west of the present structure. Since the state was doing very little at that time for the education of black people, the citizens of the community purchased an acre of land and erected the first school building. Teachers' salaries were paid or supplemented by the citizens of the Shawtown community. The first principal of the school was Mr. H. Suggs. Along with being principal, he also taught classes. During the tenure of the Reverend C. W. McNeil, principal, additional classrooms were constructed around 1924 and grades were extended to 8. Upon completion of this grade and having attended a summer school session, students were awarded certificates to teach. In approximately 1927 or 1928 the school burned. Classes were held in the Lillington Star Church and the Lillington First Presbyterian Church. Even before the destruction of the old school, citizens had begun planning for a new school. A deed dated November 21, 1923 showed that the land on which the present school stands was purchased by A. G. McLean, J. Patterson, A. B. McLean, Joe Conity, C. H. Bailey, Ralph Douglas, and William Shaw. These became the first trustees of the new school. The new structure built through the Rosenwald School Building Fund featured some rooms which could be opened into an auditorium. Electric lights were added in the 1930s. It wasn't until the early 1940s that running water and indoor plumbing facilities were installed. It was during this period that the local community began to raise funds to purchase equipment for the hot lunch program. Lunch, which consisted mainly of soup and sandwiches, was served to the students in a small structure located behind the classroom building. Mrs. Belminter, retired cafeteria manager, is to be credited for organizing and operating the first lunch program at the school. As years passed, additional grades were added to the curriculum and the first class to graduate from Shawtown with a high school diploma was the class of 1934. The main building was constructed and opened for classes in 1949. At that time it was a modern facility which could serve as a feeder school for black students in the surrounding area. In 1956 the primary building was completed. It featured classrooms and a spacious cafeteria. It has been estimated that in excess of 1,000 students were enrolled in grades 1 to 12 until integration. In 1968 Shawtown changed from a union high school to an elementary school with grades K-6. It remained that way until 1978 when it became a primary school for grades K-3. It currently serves those grades along with the special classes for handicapped students.
Harnett County Training School, also known as Harnett High School, is a historic school complex for African American students located at Dunn, Harnett County, North Carolina. The complex was built between 1922 and 1956, and consists of 1 two-story and 5 single-story brick buildings. They include a gable front combined gymnasium, auditorium, 1948, the two-story, 14-teacher, flat-roofed, Colonial Revival-style Rosenwald-funded Harnett County Training School, 1922, a detached brick boiler room, 1952, 1-story, flat-roofed library and office building and cafeteria buildings, 1956, and a 1-story, flat-roofed Rosenwald-funded classroom annex added in 1927, now designated the Education Building. The Harnett County Training School was originally a Colonial Revival structure built by Fayetteville's Player Construction Co. In 1922, it towered over the small homes along East Johnson Street and was a school for 1st through 11th grade students. At the time, it was the only brick multi-story black school in Harnett County. Partially funded by Chicago philanthropist Julius Rosenwald, the school originally had facilities for 14 teachers. An expansion in 1927 increased student capacity, making it one of the largest Rosenwald schools in the state. Other buildings were added as need arose, becoming locations for community sports and cultural activities. A gym was built in the late 1940s, with 1-story additions added in the 1950s. A cafeteria was added in 1956. The class of 1937 donated the cast stone panel above the door that bears the school's name. In time, desegregation made the school unnecessary. The last high school graduating class left in 1968, though much of the building complex was used as a middle school until 1985.
us to humble ourselves and pray. Turn from wicked ways and seek your face. Fix our broken parts, mend our wounded hearts, and heal our land. There's a mother who is mourning a gunned down son, and there are brothers who have gunned down even more. Help us to finally walk as one, colored barriers undone, and heal our land. Oh, what needless pains we bear, hearts are screaming out, it isn't fair. If we would only look to you for every care, 'cause you care. You care. There is sickness and disease, there's death and pain. Uncertainty has filled our hearts this day. Help us to never lose our faith. Give us rest in these trying days, and heal our land. Fix our broken parts, mend our wounded